So, dude, what got you wanting to start 75 Hard?
Um, honestly, I was pretty desperate at that point. Uh, I can 100% attest to the fact that I did it solely for the mental aspect of it.
Mhm.
Everyone wants to get in good shape, like that's kind of like a cool byproduct of it. But I was at a point in my life where I was down in the dumps. I've had, occasional bouts of depression that lasted, for a couple months at a time. But coming into, the post-COVID world, a lot of my contracts were in hospitality. A lot of my identity was tied to my job as a creative director in the hotel world. Most of those contracts dried up because no one was traveling. And I was just left feeling like I had no purpose. And that kind of ate away at me. I was still trying to write stuff here and there. And my relationship was on the rocks. I wasn't being a good partner. I left LA and moved to Vegas, which is kind of like where my career took off for me in Vegas. So it's kind of like I did this big circle back to the beginning. And I felt like I'd squandered all my success. And I was just feeling really shitty about myself. And you and I had been talking online for a while, and I liked what you had to say. A lot of my buddies, reposted your stuff before that. I had a buddy that did 75 Hard. And then I realized one day that I was like, I have to get out of this shit. And it was when I found out I was going to have a kid.
Mhm.
And for the first few weeks of finding out I was going to be a dad, I wasn't ready for it. And it kind of spiraled me even deeper into depression. And I started drinking a lot again. And I just realized I was going to completely fuck up my life and this kid's life if I didn't do something to get myself out of it. And so it really was like a last ditch effort to try and get back the confidence or get back to who I felt I was prior to the COVID, my career falling off. And so it was very much desperation is what got me to try it.
Yeah, man. I get that.
I feel like I'm going to cry right now. Just
No,
talking
bro.
about it.
Listen, it's real. It's real shit too. What you said about the lack of purpose during COVID, I think that's something that really resonates with a lot of people because normal life was forced away from us. And I think that's a big part of what's going on right now in the world is that, you and I talk a lot, bro. And what's really cool about having you here for me is that like I'm a fan of your shit. So it's like, you know what I'm saying?
That's a good friendship when you can reciprocate those feelings for each other.
For sure. Like if you guys don't follow him, you should because he writes some of the best things and the most thought-provoking writing that there is out there right now for anybody in our era. So it's really cool to hear that. But I think that's something that a lot of people feel, but they don't know what to do. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like they're like, fuck, dude, I'm lost. It's the internal dialogue, right? Like we might all go through like, cause I was the same way, dude.
Yeah.
I was going through life. I'm successful. I'm making money. I'm doing good things. But I wasn't living right. You know what I'm saying? Like I was drinking all the time. I was doing things that I wasn't proud of whenever I would wake up from being that person. And like, it's just a different life when you move past all of that.
Yeah. So 75 Hard for me was, I wanted to prove to myself that I could do something that seemed impossible to me. And it did. I used to tell people all the time, I used to kind of brag about it saying, I could never quit drinking. I could never not drink, man. I drink 5 nights a week. It's just what I do.
Yeah.
And I prided myself on the fact that I could drink all the time and still perform at a fairly high level.
Me too.
And my job was encouraged. I was a hospitality creative director. I worked on a lot of bars and hotels. Like drinking was kind of, I considered it, almost like a superpower, the fact that I could drink and go to meetings and handle my shit. And so just the idea of giving up drinking was seemed like impossible to me. And I was like, man, if I can, I remember telling myself, I said, if I can get through this, I'm pretty sure I can get through anything.
Yeah.
And that was like the mindset I had going into it. But I probably failed 75 Hard. I mean, actual count, I probably failed 8 times. Failed seriously 3 times in the day 20 to 30 range. And every time was in the day 20 to 30 range. And it was because I wanted to drink.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because I was craving alcohol. It was because I didn't like the idea that some dude I didn't really know was controlling my life. And so I'd get to like this cocky arrogance where I was like, who the fuck is this Andy guy to know my life? He doesn't know my stress. He doesn't know what I need to cope. And I'd get these days where I was just so tense and angry. I'd still be getting all my shit done, but I was like, I just can't feel like this anymore. I'm too mad.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to go out with my friends.
Yeah.
So I'd want to just go out and do something to like relieve that stress. And it was really just, like I said, it was arrogance. It was me feeling like I knew better than you, or me feeling like I knew better in some program. And also it was a little bit of that fear of, I didn't really want to change who I was.
Yeah.
I didn't want to become, like, I used to tell people, it's like, my drinking ability is like a 401k. I've been putting deposits in it for years. That's how my tolerance is so high.
Yeah.
And I remember actually genuinely feeling like, dude, if I stop drinking, I'm going to become a lightweight. And it was something that like bothered me, which is so fucking ridiculous to think about. But when your identities become tied to the guy who goes out and parties all the time, it's hard to let go of that.
Bro, I could completely relate to that. Like, dude, if you guys even listen to me you go back to when I was doing the show in 2015, 16, you can hear it. I talk about drinking fucking Maker's Mark and whiskey and shit. And, you know, I thought the same thing, bro. I lived the exact same way, by the way.
I didn't want to change. And so it was,
I thought it was super cool.
Dude,
I'm like, bro, I could drink a bottle of whiskey and be fine.
Dude, I used to go.
I wasn't fine though.
I went to a meeting one time in Nashville, actually, and I had been out till 4 a.m. the night before, and I showed up for an 8 a.m. meeting still drunk. And the GM of the hotel was like laughing about it and said, hey, do you want a Bloody Mary? And I was like, fuck yeah. And I killed the meeting, but I showed up drunk, and I even continued to drink in the meeting. And that was like encouraged. And it was something that people would be like, we like working with Kyle because he's this crazy creative director, but he's also really smart, but you can go party with him. Yeah. And I just felt like I owed my success to my ability to do that.
It was part of your image. It was part of
a brand.
It was part of your identity that you created about yourself.
And so I had a hard time wanting to let go of that. It was the fear of, who am I going to be without this in my life?
Yeah.
And so it was like, I think it was day 21, day 23, another time I'd drink, and then I'd wake up the next day and be like, why am I doing this? Like, I've got to prove to myself I can get through this shit. And my girlfriend was getting fed up with it. And at this point, she was a couple months along. And I just knew like I had to pull my head out of my ass if I was going to be a good dad. And so I'd start over like the next day. I'd start again. Then I get 21 days in it, fail it again. I was like, I'd be fucking done by now if I hadn't have fucked up three times.
I hear that a lot. People will say, dude, and this is how they justify it. I see it all the time. You know, oh, dude, I got 30 days in and, you know, I failed, but I learned what the program was about. The fuck you did.
I know exactly. I had a buddy of mine who did it all except one day.
Yeah, no.
And he was telling me about it, and I was just like, you didn't do it though, dude.
Yeah.
You didn't do it.
Yeah.
Because you have to start over.
Yeah. That's like running a marathon fucking and quitting literally on the last mile.
And then still claiming the little, medal.
And saying I ran a marathon.
I exactly agree. Because it really is, it's those last 20 days when it's become very monotonous.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I've found is very hard about the phases of Live Hard is once you've done 75 hard, you kind of feel like you've climbed that mountaintop. And the other ones, you're like, it just feels like you're going through the motions, man. And that's part of the process of why it's hard. And that's what people need to realize is the feeling of monotony is probably the hardest part of it all.
Yeah, but dude, for us to be successful in life, we have to master those monotonous tasks.
I agree.
At 100% detail.
Dude.
And that's the biggest skill that people lack. You know?
If I hadn't have gone straight from 75 hard into phase 1 of Live Hard, I wouldn't have finished my recent book.
Yeah.
Because that's
awesome.
I used the power list to finish my book. Because every day at the top of my list, it said write for, I think, 7 hours. And I made myself write between 5 and midnight every night for 30 fucking days. And if I hadn't have had that as a task.
You write for 7 hours straight?
I did, to finish the book.
Holy fuck.
It's not all good. When you think you get to a point, you get to a point of diminishing returns around 3 or 4 hours in.
Yeah.
But I forced myself. Then the next morning, I'd start where I left off. I'd reread and I'd edit and rewrite stuff. But it was the top of my list every day was to do that.
It makes sense why you're so good then. You practice every day.
Dude, I have to, every day. I actually have gone through.
Incredible.
I've gone through spurts where I haven't written for a couple of days and I feel stupid.
What's the name of your last book for everybody? Because they're going to want to buy it. Just
Speech Therapy.
Speech Therapy.
And it was a book that I'd had the idea to write since 2017. It's a book about, I actually heard you talk about this on a recent podcast, how we have these occurrences in our day that ruin our day, but really it's just an event that's a part of that day.
Bro.
And so I've had this idea to write a book about all the little things like losing your keys, getting in a car wreck, stupid shit that can derail you. Cause I used to be that person.
Me too.
I'm
still that person sometimes.
When I can't find something I've lost, my temper will go fucking AWOL.
It's in your fucking hand.
Yeah. and I realized how much I let that stuff affect me.
Yeah.
And so in 2017, I was like, I'm going to write this book. And I pitched it to an agent at the time. She said it wouldn't sell. So I kind of just took her word for it and focused on other work. And in the back of my mind, I always wanted to write it. And coming off 75 Hard, I felt that I had a really good knowledge of small tasks and how much they can either be positive or negative in your life, because that's the whole program, is these small things over and over. And I was like, this is a time to write the book. And I need to get it done as quickly as possible, because I'm in this mindset right now where I know the work is going to be really authentic. And so phase one, that's what I did. I wrote the book. And then I took the time off in between phase one and phase two. And then phase two, I was working on editing the book. So I had on my critical power list, or the power list every day, I had like edit 4 chapters. And I worked on it constantly through that too. And so it's something since we last met, I actually finished another book. I finished the children's book that I was telling you I was going to write.
Dude, that's awesome.
And same thing, I used the phase 3 of Live Hard. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to make myself write a spread every day to get this book done. And then I'm going to go through and work on the edits. And
it's amazing how much you can accomplish in a short time when you're focused.
I've always been a big to-do list kind of person, but a to-do list is very different. Like that's shit like change the light bulb and stuff.
Right.
It's a habit I picked up from my dad, because my dad always wrote lists. And so I always wrote lists probably for the past 10 years.
Bro, my dad did that too. You know what he used to say to us? He'd say, look, here's the whole key to success. Make a list, call the list, when, now.
Yeah.
Okay. Not when, W-I-N, but when. Like, when you're going to do it, we're going to do it now.
Yeah.
So it's make a list, call a list, when, now. And like, bro, that's like my dad's whole fucking method.
I used to, when I worked in office jobs, when I was first starting as a copywriter, I would take Post-it notes and I'd line them up on my cubicle from top to bottom of what was the most important thing. And then as I got them done, I'd take the Post-it note off. And just like that mental aspect made me feel really productive in my days. But the difference between the power list and the to-do list for me is it's very easy to push your to-do list to the next day.
Oh, yeah.
And I've made myself a rule. Like
people think that a to-do list and the power list are the same thing.
They're very different.
Very different things.
So I made myself a rule that I wrote my power list every day the day before based on how my day went. Like if I knew I had a meeting coming up or an email that I needed to get back to. And so I prioritized everything in my career that I had to do. And I told myself, if I write it the night before, I have to do it the next day, with the exception of like a circumstance out of my hands. Like sometimes I'd have like, brand presentations as part of my career on there, but someone else would fumble the ball and wouldn't get it to me in time. So then I'd be like, shit, okay, where can I pick up the slack and think of something else career-wise that I can, fit in this day? And so I always wrote the night before, and every night the night before I wrote either write 7 hours, edit 4, and I told myself, I was like, if I don't do this, I'm going to fail. I'm going to consider it a fail if I fuck one of these up. And so it's something I still do now. Even when I wasn't on phase 3, in between, I was still doing those lists every day. And then I added to the list, what I call like a burden of proof is what I wrote it down next to. And it's identifying laws of attraction, things in my life that happened that day that reaffirm what I'm doing is in the right direction.
Dude, super important.
And so I started writing those down every day. And it would be something as simple as like getting a free valet.
Yeah.
I was like, that's money. I attracted money to my life. I got valet for free and I was expecting to pay for that.
Dude, have you read Michael Lozier's book, The Law of Attraction?
Yes.
That book, he's the only guy ever besides myself, I think. And I got it from him. So
that's where I got
idea.
it.
Yeah.
From that book when he tells you to write that shit
down. Like, dude, that book, I've recommended that book for so long and people get it and they're like, this is a simple book. I'm like, that's the point. But we talk about the law of attraction and all this shit, and everybody wants to get super deep and go into meta and quantum physics and all these different things. And the truth of the matter is you don't need to understand all the shit. What you need to understand is how to use it. And that's what that book is so good about. And the thing I picked up on that book was what you're talking about.
Identifying it.
Yeah.
And it's
paying attention to when it comes back.
And it's things you don't expect.
Yeah.
It's someone like reaching out to me with a potential project. Like I have people that I haven't talked to in 5 years that'll randomly email me, like, hey, we're working on this new hotel project. Do you want to be a part of it? And that stuff hadn't happened to me until I started identifying even the little things, like everything. Like if a buddy pays for my meal for me, like everything like that, I write down in this little notebook that I keep with me at all times. And it's really changed my level of gratitude with the world too.
Yeah.
In the sense that when I was in that really dark place prior to 75 hard, it's easy to just think like nothing good happens to me.
Mm-hmm.
And you fall into that ditch of like, everything's just fucked up. Everything sucks. And even then there's probably little things happening to me, but I wasn't, I wasn't identifying them.
No, we're focused on how fucking we're the victim of the world.
And you're focused on the
force.
You're focused on the one big thing that sucks. And then you don't notice all the little things. And all those little things are what pile up into something awesome over time.